Tina Teague and Heather Mountjoy. Today is the day. Today starts the day. Oh my gosh. So I get this message from a friend in the Mission Bible Training Center system that I met who actually has the marvelous and dubious mark on her of being considered a kind of troublemaker, which is like a Jesus mark, and so today, well, for those of you who are watching this who don't know, Heather and Tina says, "Look, the Holy Spirit, Father's been telling me that you need to come where we are, and we need to talk about stuff." And she gave me a whole description. So I'm like, okay, I don't know how this is possible. I'm going through all this stuff. I just had to liquidate my entire place and stuff it into a storage closet, and my family honesty camp no longer exists. And Father's like, well, your family honesty camp is everywhere in the whole country, in North America. Remember, I told you 10 Disciple House communities all over North America. And I'm like, how can that possibly happen? So anyhow, when Tina made the description of an invitation, I'm like, okay, Father, like, when? He's like, 5 days after Saturday. And I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's that day on the calendar, which is today. Today is the day. So, and I just happened to have gone over all of my lists. And see, I have this 3-part life challenge to Americans. Number 1, learn the details of what the first 300 years of Christianity were and why they met and what they were doing. Because I didn't learn that in church, and people just ignore many things that are really cool goodies from Jesus. Okay? So, number 1, understand what they were really doing for the first 300 years, because it was a uniform thing that they were doing. Apostolic tradition of Hippolytus. Hippolytus was a guy who was going through all the churches in the late 200s saying, hey, we're starting to wander away from some of the details that Jesus taught, and we better not wander away from things. And they were like, shut up, and they killed him. He was considered a troublemaker because he was speaking truth. Pretty cool, huh? Score for Tina. So, the apostolic tradition of Hippolytus. If somebody got curious about Christianity, first they would be brought to the teachers. The teachers would teach them, okay, if you get immersed in Yeshua, if you get filled with the Holy Spirit, these are your lifestyle responsibilities, and these are the things that you can do, but these are the things that you can't do. You were given an outline by the teachers, and you would have to consider, I'm going to have to quit my job, my marriage relationship is sketchy, and it's going to have to be set aside. Jesus' main thing is like, being single like Jesus is the coolest thing in the world, and that gives you the most eternal benefits. And the children were taught from youth, either you're single like Jesus or you have a marriage bed. And the marriage bed is what you were designed for, but the singleness like Jesus gets you the most eternal benefit. So, do what you can. And if you get pitched out of a marriage, wow, you get to be single and hang out with the people and do the outreach and teach the children and be the healers, So, number 1, train people in what the early Christianity reality of church really was. Number 2, send that American person on a transformation vacation. Get them away from their family, their friends, their church groups, all of their stuff. Get them away from all of their stuff for a nice long period of time so that the demons who know them will back off and say, oh crap, let's find someone else to afflict. It's not fun around here anymore. And they leave. They're actual invisible persons. Derek Prince says this thing. Unclean spirits, it's important to look at them as just invisible persons who are around you in your atmosphere. And we all have troubling invisible persons trying to get in on us. No, everything isn't demons, and we don't have to worry about demons. But when you feel like something ain't right, you speak up. But if you haven't had teachers talking about the wise and the foolish, then there's a whole lot of confusion going on. So number one, do the teaching about what the early disciples were all about. Number two, send the person away and get them in an atmosphere where they're just counseling and singing and counseling and singing and learning and telling testimonies and just being in an atmosphere where there's God-focused, and interactive parenting of one another. We are all dumb little children of different ages and different problems, and we're just parenting one another. Wow, I like to hang out with so-and-so because he's so strong in the area where I'm stupid. It's really cool. It's like, wow, I want to be like that person. So, number one, train in what true ecclesia is. Number two, take a transformation vacation. Number three, go home and begin true ecclesia and maintain confession and communion. And not just like drearily, okay, if I don't confess my sins, I can't eat this wonderful food. No, it's like, hey, we get to admit where we're having trouble so we can care for one another, and it's really fun. And hi, here are the spirits that know how to mess with me when I get weak. Like, they don't own me. They don't control me. The Holy Spirit's owning and controlling me. But sometimes when I'm stressed or when I'm heading into a situation that's not really that comfortable for me, those spirits know that they can get around and get me into, anger, wrong relationship, distractions, obsessions, etc., etc. So I just like Paul in 2 Corinthians 12, hey, you guys, I need to tell you how I'm dumb. I have this friend who's perfect. Let me tell you how I am imperfect. So that's my 3-part reality for all Americans. If that's not interesting to you, take my card here. Take my card. Call me if, that gets interesting to you at some point. And also, I have not done a full tenure in the Mission Bible Training Centers to the point of being an overseer, and I know that I need to do that. But Father has said to me, you can't do that until you deliver the Family Freedom Party handbook, which helps people understand before and during and after they leave the Mission Bible Training Centers or their breakout program or whatever they're doing. Sometimes you might go overseas to do a mission trip and you come back with a new desire to create a communion group in your home. So, first, I have to do the Family Freedom Party handbook, which is what this is all about. Then, when that's complete and moving, I get to go into mission teens and just be a resident and get a diploma and move on into an overseer status, because God said to me, hey, this is the church this is the business church that's acknowledged by the government that I want you to be aligned with. True churches in the home with honesty times and communion and working with the Holy Spirit. So, for Tina and for Heather and for Stephen LaFosse and for many other peopleoids, this is my delivery to you. Taylor and Julia at Norma. All right, now, the first time I went to Norma recently, I went to visit and Taylor was like, hey, do you want to teach? We got a couple of openings. And I'm like, okay. So I roll in there and I'm like, come on, Holy Spirit, what do you want me to teach? I was like screaming and I'm like, God, give me something perfect to teach. So there's this 3-part teaching that came out when I was at the Norma Center, which is where it all started. Boom. First teaching is equality, responsibility. This is the introduction to the Family Freedom Party handbook. Okay, this is for everybody. If you're an atheist, cool, awesome. If you don't like to do Jesus, God, Church, and Bible, man, I'm right with you, dude. I was such an anti-Christian bigot for a long time, and I agree with that mindset because there's a lot of trash going on in Christianity, and it ought to be exposed. So, number 1, equality and responsibility. In the scriptures, it says all souls are equal. Yes, that's right. Your little 7-year-old daughter is equal to the president and the most famous person in the world. All souls are equal. But then we're born into a set of responsibilities. Are the responsibilities of a child the same as the responsibilities of an adult? No. How do adults do bad things? Well, if you're observing a younger person doing something that's rather foolish, if you don't speak up, you as an adult are not sharing your goodies, and you're not helping the development of minds and hearts and souls, because there is darkness and trouble and foolishness and etc., etc. And we do learn things. We learn things. So, you've got equality. All souls are equal. Let's not complain about this kind of soul or that kind of soul, because they're going to be judged completely different than us. We're not judged by our success in the visible sense. We're judged by how we handle our circumstances. Okay, equality and responsibility. That's study number 1. Number 2 is Adonai. The word Adonai in Hebrew is enormous. It's really important. The word Adonai is really important. In English Bibles, it's translated to the word Lord, and that's really bad, because Lord is based on two-level society in England. You know, the underclass and the overclass. And you speak to the lords as an overclass. But the cool thing is, Jesus is the same class as us. He's the same class. And in the Hebrew term Adonai, it's not a two-class reality. It's one. It's one person who is the nicest boss and the friendliest, kindest father and the most beneficial person, who is giving truth, wisdom, learning, guidance, benefits, financial service. It's just like the greatest boss that you could ever have, that gives the best bonuses that you would never quit. Adonai is a marvelous thing. So God, our invisible friend, and Yeshua, Jesus, the idea is that they are our invisible helper, Adonai, stronger and bigger than us. Oh my gosh. Adonai is such a beautiful term. It's a marvelous term. It goes above the concept of a loving father. It's just, it fits everything. And I like to use the term lifeguard. See, Yeshua, Jesus says, look, a landowner doesn't share his ideas with his slaves. I don't call you slaves and servants. I call you friends, because I share my mind with you. That's so cool. So it's literally like a person in our class in school. Okay, some people haven't gone to school, but a person in our class, in our neighborhood, in our circle of friends, who's just like one of us, who becomes the lifeguard, who sits up on a chair and looks over all of us, and who has a special ability. He has trained to be able to rescue. So he's sitting there in the chair and he's looking at all of us, but when he blows the whistle, we better do heads up, because he is our classmate, but he is caring for us in a special way. So respect the lifeguard. My Adonai, my lifeguard, the one who looks out for me. So that's the second teaching that I did in Norma. Adonai. Now the third one, number 3, is the truth meal. And this is a fun one. Okay, boom. You put a cup on the table. Put a cup on the table, put bread on the table, cup and bread on the table. I'm like, okay, now, everybody here, this is the supernatural happy meal. This is the heaven meal, the truth meal. But we can't touch this if there's any trouble or sadness or hidden issues in our hearts. Now, the introduction is literally an introduction for any atheist, anybody that doesn't want to have anything to do with Christianity. All humans are equal, but we have responsibilities. We need to discern what they are. Number 2, there are those in our lives, a great teacher, a good friend, somebody that's looking out for you, somebody you can rely on, somebody who's actually giving you benefits. And I pray that I can be an Adonai for you. I mean, years ago, when God crashed in on me, I was so hateful and angry at God and Christianity and everybody in it. And I said, listen, I need you to make me into the daddy that I needed that I didn't have. The spiritual truth speaker that wasn't around me. I felt like there was something wrong, or something missing. So, the truth meal. I mean, imagine, you're not a religious person, but you're worried about your kids and what they're getting caught up in when you're not around them. So you put the truth meal on the table and say, okay, if there's any goofy, strange, troublesome thing that's on your heart that's happened to you, just talk about it before we touch the truth meal. And I'm going to say, okay, do you have peace in your heart that there's no trouble going on that you need to talk about? Because we tell about our troubles so we can serve one another. We have fun helping one another get towards our dreams. The things on your heart that you would really, really, really like to do, we want to help you do those things. Hi, I want to work with horses and handicapped kids. I don't know nothing about horses. So if I say that to you, that's part of my trouble in my heart. I really want to do that thing. I really want to start a fun camp out sailing school where people just live on boats for a while and they learn how to be a team, sail sailboats every day for a little while until they're really good at it. Taking turns playing skipper, cooking in the galley, below decks, handling the foresail, all that kind of stuff, stowing things, making things look neat and clean, tidying up the lines, learning knots. A sailing school, 4 sailboats, 4 locations. Maine, Hawaii, Savannah, Georgia, Tampa Bay. 4 locations, 4 boats in each location. And it's this fun, outrageous liveaboard thing for people who want to escape their ordinary insanity and become inspired. That's the thing that I want to do. Anyhow, so if I'm into horses and handicapped kids and I really want to do that with my life, and you bump into somebody that has a stable and horses, because you know my dream, you're like, hey, can I bring a friend here to see your place? Because they have a dream of working with horses. I'm like, yeah, sure. And because you know my dream, you can start circulating and bring home threads of answers to my dream. So that's part of the truth meal too. It's not just renounce what bad thing you did. It's like, what's going on in your heart? What do you want that you're not getting? What are your situations? So those were the 3 introductory things. I'm going to cut off now. It's been 18 minutes. That's way too long. So, hello. Hello to Tina and Heather and Steven especially, and everybody else that I ain't thinking of at the moment. And Taylor and Julia and all the MBTC people. Yahoo.